it's loud. Turn the volume down. Am I blasting you out back there? Can I be heard? Turn it down a little bit more. How's that? All right. Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township regular session of the Bedminster Township Committee, August 15th, 2016. Ms. Sullivan, if you can call the meeting to order with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville, Burnsville News in Burnsville, to all subscribers, and also posted here at the Township Municipal Building as of January 14th, 2016.
I'll call to join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have three sets of meeting minutes. The regular session for July the 18th, the executive session for July the 18th, and the agenda meeting for August the 1st. I still sound like I'm feeding back. Any comments or questions on any of those set of minutes?
Mayor, just one change to the regular meeting, July 18th. Under Township Committee comments, I already spoke to Judy about making the change. Just so you, in the second sentence where I said I was very disappointed, and it's here in the minutes with the leadership. I was going to be a little more specific as to what leadership. I told Judy that it should read, very disappointed with the legislature and the governor's office for their inability to compromise and reach a solution.
Okay.
Want me to repeat that, Judy?
Please.
Okay. Very disappointed with the legislature and the governor's office for their inability to compromise and reach a solution.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or changes? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Permits and raffles. We have a good number of them tonight, starting with a social affair permit for the Morristown Beard School, October 10th, 2016, 12:30 to 9 p.m. at the Hamilton Farm Golf Club. A social affair permit for the Friends of the Jacobus Vanderveer House on behalf of Bedminster Charities. That is September 10th, 2016, 11:30 to 6 p.m. at the River Road Park. Social affair permit for the Autism Foundation of New Jersey, and that's on September 12th, 2016, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Hamilton Farm Golf Club. A raffle license for the Friends of the Jacobus Vanderveer House on behalf of Bedminster Charities, also September 10th, 2016, 11:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. River Road Park. That is an on-premise 50/50. A raffle license for the St. Joseph Catholic Church, October 3rd, 2016, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, an off-premise 50/50. A raffle license for Somerset Health Care Foundation, September 12th, 2016, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Trump National Golf Course, on-premise merchandise. A raffle license for the Somerset Healthcare Foundation on September 12th, 2016, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Trump National Golf Course, on-premise 50/50. Raffle license for the Center for Contemporary Art, August 21st, 2016, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. 2020 Burnt Mills Road, and off-premise merchandise. And finally, a raffle license for the Bedminster Township PTO, January 10th, 2017 that is, at 7:30 p.m. Bedminster Township School, Somerville Road, and off-premise 50/50. Any comments or questions on any of the permits and raffles? If not, I will take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second those motions?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And for the record, I did want to mention, which I should mention right up front, we do have a quorum tonight with Mr. Olson appears to be absent. Public comments. Twice every meeting, we open up that microphone at that podium to any member of the public that wishes to comment and make any questions. Come forward, identify yourself and your street address, and be heard. Seeing none, we will move on to our monthly report from our subcommittee chair, and we will start as we almost always do with Mr. Payne.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Two quick things. as liaison to the master associations, just want to bring everybody up to date. There was some bunch of emails going back and forth on the implementation of traffic calming devices on Hills Drive now that it's been repaved. And Judy, you and I have been talking about this, and Paul Ferraro's been interacting with the Master Association. The latest request was for a stop sign to be put in at the second entrance of Knoll Crest, but that's going to be problematic on a number of levels. Number one, according to Paul, is that unless we pass an ordinance as the Township Committee designating that within 500 feet of a park, then that would not be permitted, and it would violate the traffic control measures and invalidate Title 39 investment protection on Hills Drive. They've been looking at rumble strips. They've looked at, I think it's already there, isn't it, Chief? They have a slow down sign. They have a speed monitor, or they're in the process of getting one, I think, right?
The speed monitors, I believe, are mine. Is that what you're speaking?
Yeah, the speed monitor says your speed is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's another thing they're looking at. But I think the Master Association wants to pursue the stop sign, so that will come in front of us eventually, and we'd have to make a determination if that truly is considered a park. I'm not sure how the definition goes, but it is not a public access park. It's private property, so I don't know if that is going to permit us to enact an ordinance, therefore allowing the stop signs to go in. So more on that and more from...
I guess I'd like to hear more from Paul on why it would invalidate Title 39, because the whole point of Title 39 is it's private road, they set it up the way we want, but we're allowed to patrol it. So if they wish to set it up with an extra stop sign because...
Well, it doesn't meet the manual of traffic control devices, I guess, as far as the sight distances involved and the braking distances. I think that's what it is. Could you elaborate on that?
You know, that's going to come down to traffic engineering, and, you know, I am not an expert on that,
Right.
but you're correct. I mean, that's at the top of a hill. You're coming up from both sides. You know, I think it would all depend on the sight picture, and obviously the speed isn't that significant. So people should be able to stop.
Now, the loophole is if it's within a park, 500 feet of a park. So, but like I said, whether or not that meets the threshold of a park. So that may come in front of us at some point. More on that later. And then secondly, I wanted to just share an email that I got from Jim and Liz Ann Gatto regarding some of the damage that was done on their street due to one of the recent floods. And it's just a nice kudo to John and his men. He goes, Bernie, I wanted you to know that John Manson, the Public Works crew, went above and beyond in the easement repair. As I told John, they could not have been more professional and respectful in helping us repair the area. Please share this with the rest of the town council. We are fortunate and as residents to have such a great team. So,
That's Sea Hill.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good job. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, John. And I think the rest is somewhere on the agenda that
Okay.
for me.
Ms. Jacobs?
Environmental Commission meeting last month was canceled. I think we talked previously that the joint meeting with Open Space and the tour of the Open Space inventory, it looks like could be September or October.
September 18th, maybe at 11
Well,
a.m.?
maybe.
Maybe.
We'll put a maybe on that, to be determined. Other than that, not much on those committees, but on extracurricular subcommittees. Last week, Judy and I had a meeting with Walter Lane from Somerset County Director of Planning on the sort of, I guess, a kickoff with the planning team for the priority growth investment area, identifying the AT&T campus and some of the concerns that the town would have on examining planning opportunities and planning potential for that property. This was a kickoff meeting. We just discussed generally the issues that we're facing in town, certainly dealing with the regional and perhaps national-wide issue of the declining importance of suburban corporate campuses and making sure that whatever plan is put forth understands what we're dealing with in Bedminster and how best to plan for the future. So that we will have subsequent meetings with the county and their planning team. Probably we may see them again in September.
Mid-September.
Yeah. Also just want to follow up, we've talked about this before, the Chief Meyer 5K Memorial Run is set for the morning of Fall Fest and will be coordinated with the Fall Fest activities. Jake, if you haven't seen a flyer for the 5K, have you? Judy?
Get him one.
Judy, can you get Jake a copy of the flyer?
It's September 10th.
It's September 10th. It's the morning of Fall Fest. Judy has done a terrific job in gaining sponsorships, specifically for the 5K run itself. And proceeds from the 5K will be going to the Grayson Meyer 501
Scholarship, 529.
scholarship account for his for Chief's son, and also some of the other proceeds will be directed to Bedminster charities. Certainly, we've got Chief Locke here, who's been sitting on the committee, John Nance, who we just brought in as we get towards wrapping up the course and preparing the course. And just so everyone knows, the course will run down River Road, just to about Bunn, do a turnaround at Bunn and come back. And we will get that done, and that'll certainly be the kickoff for the Fall Fest activities. John Bellardo has signed up to be a participant in the 5K. Joe?
Is that hinting that I should as well?
Take it for what's worth. Just letting you know.
That's the first I'm hearing about it.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, see, that's why we got to spread the word.
Well, spread the word, and we certainly know that our friends at Burnsville News will spread the word as well. And one other comment was out at the Robert Stall Natural Area. My sons were assisting Alex Christie, who came before the Township Committee on his Eagle Scout project, and his Eagle Scout project is now complete. There's a number of benches and signs at the Robert Stall Natural Area, and once again, as always, I want to thank John Manson, DPW, for providing some assistance in getting that project complete. John, once again, thank you, and thank your staff for their assistance.
Young Mr. Christie was here this morning for me to sign off on his project.
So, great. Good to see Alex move forward on his Eagle Scout. And, Mayor, that's it.
Very good. Ms. Santucci.
Thank you, Mayor. As Larry said, possibly we'll have a tour of the open space parcel September 18th, but we're going to check in with the Environmental Commission. It might be that Sunday at 11 o'clock. We'll let everybody know. Possibly a joint meeting with the EC on October 5th. We're trying to, talk. During the summer, it's kind of hard because people are on vacation and missing. But we did have a open space meeting last week. And I did hear about the Alex Christie and his comrades and the scouts and the project. I saw photos and it's great. So thank you. Thank you, John. And just Jake, if you're back there. Fall Fest is early this year, so I know a lot of people that I'm talking to, it's a little bit earlier than usual, so I'm trying to spread the word, so hopefully we'll put that in the paper.
All right.
I keep talking about it, people go, wow, it's September already, and now
It is around the corner.
I think it's a week. We did it a little bit
Yeah.
earlier, right? A little bit earlier, so people are kind of getting ready back to school, but hopefully they'll come.
We have to kind of plan it around the firemen's convention.
Mhm.
That's the stickler.
So it's going to be great, but it's just a little bit earlier. That's all I have.
All right. I don't have anything to add. So we'll go to Ms. Sullivan, Administrator's Report.
Okay, a couple exciting things like the annual jet cleaning of the sewer line this week on Wednesday, so, make sure you're watching for that. We have a meeting next week, the chief, a number of other key people, first aid and fire, August 22nd, for the LPGA U.S. Men's Golf Open. That's set for July 2017, so we're going to have a bit of a kickoff meeting planning for that. Next as well, on the 24th, We'll have representatives from DEP and DOT to discuss the riparian buffer project that we're trying to finish up with the hike and bike. There's also, the first meeting with DEP will also be talking about maintenance of the turtle tunnels, which we haven't discussed. So John will be involved in that, and then DOT will be regarding the riparian buffer. There will also be a DOT public information session held here in this room on Tuesday, August 30th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. to talk about the I-287, I-78, Route 202, 206 interchange improvement project. Now that's a federally funded project. It is not on hold, as many of our other projects are, and they will be having an information session for the public that evening here. So anyone who has issues, questions, or just wants to see how it's going to play out are invited to come that evening. I'm also requesting, the mayor and I talked about this briefly the other day. We have two projects we need to kind of talk about, one being updating of our personnel policy. We have some updates recommended from the GIF, as well as some updates we'd like to interject ourselves. We had a department head staff meeting a couple weeks ago with some great ideas, maybe some changes we might want to talk about. So rather than just bring that on you at a meeting, we'd like to maybe meet with a township committee member or two, kind of just go over what our ideas are and get some direction or focus on what's going to work well. And John also has some ideas for some staffing that we may want to talk about too, instead of just bringing it to a meeting. So we'd like to get on our calendar by mid-September. I don't need a date or anything like tonight, but if you want to maybe give me an idea of who might be headed my way.
Okay.
And that's all.
All right. Discussion on introduced ordinances. We don't have any. Introduction of ordinances. We don't have any, but we do have a public hearing for an ordinance 2016-014. That's an ordinance authorizing the appropriation of $10,000 for capital projects associated with the shared municipal court of Bedminster Township, Peapack, Gladstone Borough, and Bernardsville Borough. This ordinance appropriates $10,000 for improvements to the shared court that will be funded jointly by the three towns. Get a motion to open the public hearing.
Make the motion to open.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public that has any questions or comments about ordinance 2016-014? Any member of the dais? Are there any projects looming in the very near future
Small,
for this?
small ones, but our idea was to put the 10,000 aside and
Oh,
it
and-
would sit
yeah.
there. But we have some, what do I want to call them? A box. One for the public that they can make payments, and one for the three police departments to drop off any correspondence to the court. So that they don't necessarily have to come during business hours, they can come whenever they need to come. So there'll be two separate drop boxes. They have to be of a very secure nature and erected in a certain way, connected to the building, so they can't move, that kind of thing. So they're a little bit more expensive than you may normally see. So way under the $10,000 number. I mean, this is just a small purchase, but this will set aside monies for any other projects that may come up.
A smaller version of a drop box like you might have
The library.
Have at a library.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
All right. Very good. If there's no further questions or comments, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
At this point, I will take a motion to approve ordinance 2016-014, if someone will.
I'll, Mayor?
Mayor?
Bernie,
I'll second the motion.
second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. We have three resolutions on tonight's consent agenda, starting with Resolution 2016-090. That is supporting the drive sober or get pulled over statewide Labor Day crackdown. Is there any comments or, well, no, we do these all together. And we also have the 26, you'd think I'd know how to do this by now. Resolution 2016-091, that's Chapter 159, adding an item of revenue to the municipal budget for the Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over crackdown grant, and 2016-095. That's accepting a donation of $400 for the purchase of a bulletproof vest for the police department. Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'll take a motion.
Just one, Mayor. Judy, on the donation, since the resolution explanation names the individual that donated, are we acknowledging that person?
You certainly could. I didn't put it on the agenda per se. It is in the resolution.
Right.
We've had a lot of outpouring of support for the police department, especially our own, from just the residents. They've stopped by with food and greeting cards and just, thank yous. And this gentleman wanted to do something nice and wanted to donate towards the purchase of a bulletproof vest. We have to treat it similar to a grant because it's not in our budget, and we have to accept it in a certain way with a resolution, which we're doing. But, I thought it was, I don't know if there was anything else that went along with what his donation was.
No, I mean, just, he stopped in one day and, appreciates what we do, and just with all the attacks on police throughout the world lately, he was willing to dig into his checkbook and give us a donation, at least towards the vest, so.
Well, I think that's wonderful to hear that we do have the outpouring from the public, and this is a very generous gift.
Yeah, a vest costs more than that, but.
Yeah,
certainly
but towards that, that's all right.
If we could send him some type of formal acknowledgement,
We were
I think
going
that
to
would,
do.
okay.
Okay.
Or a copy of the resolution, maybe.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments or questions, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye?
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
We have 3 other resolutions to be worked on individually, beginning with Resolution 2016-089, authorizing the mayor and the township clerk to execute an interlocal agreement with the Clarence Dillon Public Library for maintenance and service to the property. We really did not, this goes back to the beginning of the year, to the budget cycle, and actually it goes back a lot further than that. Years ago, we did have an actual written agreement between us and the Clarence Dillon Library for the support that John and the rest of the township provides for various things. That was a 1-year agreement if you actually looked at the fine print. We went through the budget cycle. We had a proposal for how to treat our services that we render to the Clarence Dillon Library, and the trustees did not wish to do it in the manner that it was proposed. The alternative to that is to make sure that our formal interlocal agreement is vetted and signed and put forth. The new agreement that's coming forth is, from what I understand, pretty darn close to what it was many years ago. So not
Almost
anything.
identical.
Yeah, exactly. At the last Clarence Dillon Public Library meeting, it was handed to me. It's signed, Mayor, will you sign it? And I go, well, I can't do that unilaterally. So it is before us as a board, or as a committee, to ratify that. And that's where we're at. So any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion for 2016-089.
So moved.
Second.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye?
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye. Resolution 2016-092, which looks a lot like 093, which is appointing a full-time laborer in the Department of Public Works. John, would you give us a little history about where we're at and why we're at this point?
We had a resignation earlier in the year, which I had replaced. I felt it was time to look for somebody at that point in time, so we did advertise for a labor type position. Not a lot of description in the advertisement. I did get, however, about 25 applications that we looked at, reviewed. I interviewed 10 of those individuals and came up with a number of applicants for the position. Meantime, I ended up having a disciplinary action with one of the other employees, which resulted in a termination. So we're actually replacing 2 individuals with the same group of applications we got in. So out of what turned out to be 30 applications, because some dribbled in later on, I did choose these two individuals and felt that they would be the best candidates for the position for Memphis Township. One is someone very young, fresh out of vocationary school, and the other one is by trade a carpenter, looking for something more of a steady work, and lives very close in Castle Ridge. The other gentleman, the younger gentleman, lives on Hillside Avenue. Lives very close to home.
Okay.
Don, so based on the experience, then I guess that's what creates the differential in the starting salary?
Correct. The one individual, like I said, is just fresh out of school. We'll give him an opportunity to show what he's got, and then we can move him up into a range that I feel is comfortable. So neither of them at this point in time have a CDL license, so the goal is to get both of those gentlemen through the CDL program, and hopefully we can get the licenses, which means that they'll be able to drive our bigger trucks. The second individual does have a lot of building knowledge, construction knowledge, which I felt was going to be very beneficial, which is why he had a different increase in the salary.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you advertise? Just curious.
We actually put it in, I think we put it in the Courier News, I believe, and we also put it in the League of Municipalities.
Okay.
also.
All right.
I think we put in the Bristol News as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just local papers. All right. Very good.
I got range all down
Yeah.
the state.
All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion for 2016-092.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Again, roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye. And I'll take a motion for 2016-093, considering they pretty much covered everything.
I'll do that again, make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'd also like to put up a, can I get a resolution, a motion to approve the bill list pending the approval of individual invoices.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Payne?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker?
Aye. We have a discussion item here that may or may not result in a resolution. The issue is to look towards our open space trust fund, and we made a change a couple years ago, and we find that this is kind of further evolving. And I will turn this discussion over to Mr. Jacobs, who is kind of the driver behind this.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor, as you mentioned, some of these, even the agreement with the library goes back to budget discussions and previous budget discussions. Similarly, this resolution, or this potential resolution, goes back to our budget discussions. As most folks know, we have an open space tax, which is currently dedicated to the purchase of certain property rights, including outright purchases of property, as well as easements and restrictions. We, in the past, I forget maybe what year it was, we opened up some of those funds to be used for maintenance of open space properties, but it was very specific to maintenance activities, and that maintenance expense was limited to 20% of the funds collected per year by the open space tax. As our open space assets have increased, and right now perhaps the one that's most remarkable is the extension of the hike and bike from River Road to Burnt Mills Park. We are in a position where our open space assets are expanding. And if the acquisition of the Meyer property goes through, there'll be additional real estate and potential improvements that we may decide, or some other township committee in the future may decide it would be a good idea to undertake. Under New Jersey statute, the open space funds can be used for a variety of activities, including not just buying land rights and conservation rights, but also for undertaking certain improvements. Even the 20% limitation that we currently have in our open space program is self-imposed. So that was a number that was picked by an earlier township committee. We lived with that for a number of budget cycles, and we go to John and say, John, you know, are we using all of it? John says, we're using every single dime, and then for additional maintenance and improvements to whether it's our parks or it's the hike and bike trails, those additional expenses have to come from general revenue. So I look at this and I go, well, you know, geez, we're sitting on this pot of money, and we continue to generate funds, and frankly, we've done this committee and other committees working with our partners at NJCF, and we've done a pretty good job of doing land preservation across the township. Land and Lobel being one of the more significant ones, and more also recently the Zeebarth property. Well, Land and Lobel didn't really cost us a whole lot. Didn't cost us anything. Zeebarth was, I believe, was all dedicated, at least the township portion was all dedicated through grants. So we've preserved additional land that we haven't had to use the open space funds for. So we're collecting this money. We're not spending it to the full extent that we can. So in prior discussions, and it's really working.
But in not spending it, when you have things that we need to spend it on, we find ourselves having to dig into the general fund, which puts a greater pressure on the tax base.
Right, correct.
So
with this resolution that that may be before us does not increase taxes, does not increase the open space tax, and will have no increase under our general revenues or general collections. What we'll simply do is we'll take the open space fund and expand the universe of activities to dedicate it towards.
That we're allowed to use it.
Right, we're allowed to
but still go under the global guidelines that the state established years ago.
Correct.
So we're not exceeding that.
We're not, no, that would be against the law.
Well, but yeah.
Right, against the law. So what I asked John's office to do was to give us a proposed resolution with proposed language to be included in a referendum. And the way the open space tax law works, any adjustments to the open space tax, whether it's expenditures or collection, needs to be approved by the public under a referendum. So to make the referendum, or to make the November ballot, we would need to approve a referendum and get it submitted to the county
By Friday.
by Friday.
Okay.
But no pressure. What this does, once again, it just allows, it takes away the restriction about the 20% on maintenance. So if we had to spend 25% of the funds that are collected a year on maintenance, we could do so without violation of our own ordinance, our own self-imposed restriction.
Because there have been projects that we wanted to, that properties we need to maintain, and there have been times where we may not have been able to maintain them to the extent because of the limitations.
Correct. And for example, looking at some of the hike and bike extensions, what we've done is we've parsed out the expenditures over years so that we don't violate our 20% limitation on maintenance. Also, what this ordinance will do, it will allow us to spend money on capital improvements, which is currently not permitted under the way the open space ordinance is drafted.
Much like the final pavement of the hike and bike trail going up to...
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. So we couldn't, under the existing program, we couldn't even advance those funds even if they were going to be reimbursed by a grant later, because
Right.
it's simply just not the way the current open space ordinance is drafted.
Which has caused us, in the last couple budget cycles, to sit and choose between the hike and bike path and fire equipment, police equipment, your roads, which are also competing, because they're all competing on the capital budget. This would allow us to take a little bit of that pressure off in funds that are already dedicated for that land.
Right, to open space and recreational purposes. So it's a very quick referendum. Joe, I'm not sure if you and John discussed it all, if there's any other comments from the legal side?
No, I mean, we didn't specifically discuss this, but I've been involved with the Open Space Trust Fund in Bedminster for some time and helped draft these in the past. I know I was involved with when we amended originally to change it to the allowed maintenance up to 20%. And it's just, these type of amendment does require under the statute to go to referendum. So that's why it's required. You can't just simply amend the ordinance. But other than that, what you said was 100% correct and not really much to add.
Now, I do have a question, Mr. Sordillo. As we look at the beginning paragraph, it talks about that the original open space tax came from a question in 1997. And does that have a renewal?
Yes, the ordinance, how it was drafted, originally provided for that the Township Committee would renew, or I shouldn't say renew necessarily, would evaluate the ordinance every 10 years. That
So it
was
would
the intent.
sunset, and an act of this body would have to confirm. Can this body change it?
You can't change it without going to referendum, and actually, even though it has a sunset clause, it can't technically be taken off the books, even if the sunset clause expired without
Really?
referendum.
Oh, okay.
So it was more intended, and that's why when it was renewed back in 2007, it was
Right.
done simply by ordinance. The council looked at, the committee looked at it, realized it wanted to continue it, and renewed it for another 10 years, but technically it wouldn't have been able to eliminate it without going to referendum, because creating it, eliminating it, or modifying the amount or the uses all require referendum.
With that being said, I remember when we went to referendum to put in 20% threshold for the purpose of maintenance. Should this resolution reference that there was a previous referendum that instituted the 20%, which we're now stating we're taking away? You see at the bottom where it says eliminate the 20% limitation on open space trust funds, should it be noted that that was by a separate referendum that we instituted the 20%? Or doesn't matter?
I mean, it's not necessary, but if it's something that you would like to add just for information purposes.
I don't know if I have a strong opinion one way or another. I'm just bringing it to the committee's attention that that 20% was by referendum originally.
Right. The only thing I would comment on that was if you start adding too much, it might get a little confusing to the voter when they go to saying, well, wait,
Okay.
this was...
I didn't know if that had to be there.
But if right now, what it's saying is what is on the books and what we're looking to amend.
Okay.
So that would be my only comment to that, but you could go either way.
I'm not,
And
And that is
one way or
consistent
another.
with my discussions with John. We felt that you have to keep it short and simple and not put too much into either the resolution or the referendum itself.
Okay, that's fine. The only thing I would comment on is number A, where it says development of lands acquired for recreation and conservation purposes. Development is a broad term. I think development conjures up images in people's heads of what development might be. Maybe eliminate the word development and say improvements of lands acquired for recreation and conservation purposes, rather than development.
I agree with
Development means a lot to a lot of different people.
I think the reason that John used the term development is that actually the term in the statute, but I think using the term improvement is a more accurate depiction of what what we or anyone, other future committees may elect to pursue. And once again, so improvements would include trails, benches,
But
Doesn't mean
trail
we're
is not
that
necessarily.
doesn't mean we're building a shopping mall or anything else like that.
Trail is not necessarily development, I guess.
Right. No.
In the pure sense of the
Understood.
word.
All right.
But I remember the last discussion we had for the 20%, there was a lot of hand-wringing over ball fields, backstops, dugouts, and the like, grandstands.
What is the actual question?
I-
It's going to be printed on
This.
where so it's going to say whether we
Yes.
can amend section,
Yes.
okay, so it'll have the choices here.
Yes.
So when it says in the interpretive statement,
That'll be
for
under-
expanded purposes, they'll be allowed to.
Yes. They'll see this.
The whole,
Yes.
okay. Is it going to be a tough ballot?
But as much as there was a lot of discussion over that several years ago when this last ballot measure came up, I don't think in the ensuing time since then, there's been much pressure or outcry about that sort of thing anyway.
Well, and we are just very lucky to have with us here tonight
An expert, I know.
the expert who essentially, I guess self-immolation is probably too strong a term for the Far Hills Bedminster Little League.
No, he forged a shared
Oh,
service.
they forged a shared service.
That's what I think, anyway.
So we know right now that no clamor for additional backstops or any other of those types of facilities. Doug, I don't know if you want to come up and whether you're aware of any. So between our existing fields and what Bernardsville currently has, we seem very well suited.
But even if not, regardless of that, even if things do change, any of those things would be discussed and go through the normal budget cycle and the normal.
They would all
So it would all go-
appropriations
yeah.
and resolutions
Yeah, so-
before any additional expenditures.
Right.
And if we ever found ourselves in such a situation that this township committee or subsequent township committees felt the need to move forward on spending money on recreational facilities, this at least gives them that option.
Mhm.
If I can just ask a question kind of along what Stacy said, the resolution that we send down to the county must state the actual question that's going on the ballot, and I don't know
I really,
that this is saying what you want in that respect.
so are you saying, Larry, where it's going to say, do you wish for
Correct.
the township committee to amend sections? I think we have to kind of maybe put something in the beginning.
Let's,
You know what I mean?
Joe?
Because,
At what point, the question would begin right after the last whereas?
Right, we should have
Maybe,
cut and paste that actually in the now where therefore clause, so it's not just being recited as in the whereas.
just make it a little more.
Yeah, right above the
Yeah.
interpretive statement, because that's what you see on a ballot. You see the actual question and then the interpretive statement. In other words, the format.
You know, I think at one point, John and I were discussing whether the interpretive statement is sort of the small statement, and then you have before that the lead-in, which is for
Right.
those expanded uses.
Right, but you have the question and then below the interpretive statement, and it should probably look like it'll look on the
This should
ballot.
actually be here. It
Oh, okay.
says, if you look right after the now therefore, be it resolved, after that paragraph, it says the Township Committee of the Township of Bedminster requests the Somerset County Clerk print on the official ballot to be used in the November 8th general election, the following proposition. And then it just says, vote on the public question. That's where the question should be. That's
Yeah.
where that section from the whereas clause should be here.
Yep.
So that is what's going to be
So
printed,
the
so we know.
amended section 15.2.1, that would be.
Should be above where
Right.
it says to vote upon the public print.
Okay. Can we put?
So the only thing that the voter has to read is the amend section with A, B, C, and D,
And then.
and then the interpretive statement below that.
Correct.
Yep.
That is how we've done it in the past as well.
All right.
And then in addition to that, we're going to change the word development to improvement.
Improvements.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think we can kind of rewrite it that way. Pending,
Good.
make a motion for 2016-094.
Okay, let's do it. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Jacobs?
Aye.
Ms. Santucci?
Aye.
Mayor Parker? Thank you.
And we will let the voters decide this fall.
All right.
Along with casino gambling. North Jersey.
Is what they meant by development?
I would not use that in conjunction with this question.
I don't want anybody to confuse the questions.
I don't think the Cobus Vanderveer house is looking to put a roulette wheel in. All right. New business. Does anyone have any new business that we haven't talked about yet? If not, go to old business. Pony Farm. Nobody come forward?
Nope.
We have to reset our hourglass again.
Isn't there a,
There's an interested party.
I spoke to that member of that interested party just before I went on vacation and reminded him that his group needs to come forward even if it's not a fully baked. That's actually it. Well, I'll leave that for later. All right. No, nothing new on the Pony Farm. Mr. Payne, Shop Bedminster.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Quite a bit to report on that, Mayor. This Wednesday, Glenn Kay from FinCredit and I have a number of appointments with some merchants that were sign up for the program. Glenn's been making phone calls and following up on my initial and my wife's initial talks with the merchants. We're very confident we're going to get 15 minimum. There's already a number of out-of-area merchants that want to participate that will honor the card that currently operate in Bridgewater and Hillsborough. Nothing that would compete with any businesses in Bedminster, like car dealerships, for instance, construction companies, things like that. So the idea, and I'll mention this to Judy and everyone, the idea was to get the merchants signed up before Fall Fest, and at Fall Fest, distribute a flyer to anybody that comes by the township booth with the names of the participating merchants to date, and telling them that effective, let's say, October 1st, or whenever we get the cards manufactured, they can then pick the cards up at the participating merchants, at PPAC Gladstone Bank, at Town Hall, and wherever else we decide we want to
I
distribute
have a
them.
small issue
Okay,
regarding a township booth.
okay.
To have a booth, you need staffing. Open Space and Environmental Commission, we're going to staff a booth, and now that there's not enough interest to staff a booth.
I thought, when I heard back, they had said that we weren't having a township booth, that's why so maybe there was like.
So I explained that a township booth needs volunteers to run a township booth.
And there weren't enough people.
And I have a number of employees that have volunteered, but they're doing other things, like admission gate and parking and other things. So I need volunteers, and I don't have volunteers to staff the booth all day.
Well, I mean, if we're going to be passing out flyers for the property tax card, I'll be at the booth for the majority of the day.
You know, if we need a booth, we can create a booth, but I need someone to be in the booth. And right now, I
Well,
don't have anyone
I'll be
to
there.
do that.
I guess my question is, you've talked about how you're confident you're going to have enough businesses. My feeling was that we were going into this exploratory, and that once you say, well, here's how many businesses and here's how it's going to go. I mean, we've had several years ago, we did have the proposal, but I don't, again, much like the long-awaited deer management program, don't we need something concrete that the five of us can look at and say, yes, that's the program, and go through the fine print, as opposed to October 1st, here the cards are going out. I mean, my question was that we were going to have a full-baked proposal, and here are the businesses that are committed, and as opposed to...
We have to get the businesses to sign up. And
Right.
There's paperwork they have to submit with their business checking accounts and what kind of discounts they're going to be offering. And then we had to get the sponsor, which was PPAC Gladstone, who's going to pay for the cards. Then we did have the public information meeting, and we did meet with the tax collector, who did the diligence on that with the other towns, saying that the program does work in the other towns, and it wasn't going to be a heavy lift for the township tax collector to to implement this batch information
No.
as it came to us. So, I mean, really nothing else that the township really gets involved in at this point, other than, because there is a third-party administrator in FinCredit. So it's a matter of getting the people to actually sign up so we know that they're committed, and a lot of verbal commitments, but someone's got to actually, what I'm going to do Wednesday is actually got to walk in, see the proprietor, have him sign it, fill out the form with the information, and it's probably going to be a couple of visits at least. But now after you get 15 people on the list and they distribute the flyer, you're going to get more businesses saying, hey, I want in too. So we have that.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
I understand the work
Yeah.
that you're doing, and I don't necessarily, I'm not trying to throw any cold water on it, but by the same token, we were going down an exploratory road, and before we have a program that the township personnel are going to actually enact, shouldn't the governing body get final approval on saying, hey, look through this, and this is how this works, and, you need, get 3 votes or 5 votes to say, yeah, let's go, let's make it happen. And I'm not suggesting that you may not get it, but it seems that the protocol would be that.
This required, was this ordinance or resolution? I thought there was some,
It doesn't even require either. I mean, towns
I thought
passed
the
a resolution.
legislation came from the state and it authorized municipalities to adopt. Is that not the case?
I don't know about that.
I know some towns have passed a resolution, but I think that was more of formality, so that they could announce it and roll it out. See, in the case of some of these towns, they have economic development agencies who are spearheading it, Chamber of Commerce, but since we don't have anything like that in town.
And like I said, and you've taken the weight on yourself and done an awful lot of legwork, and I'm not trying to disparage that at all. I'm just saying that the final mechanism, the governing body should, whether it be by resolution or ordinance, that shouldn't we have approval when it's all baked? In other words, well, here's the proposal. It's all kind of like we did with the deer management program. I didn't just say I'm going to write a deer management program and told you how it worked afterwards. And not suggesting that's
I
what you're
guess
doing,
the
but.
problem is what comes first, the chicken or the egg type of thing, until we.
Well, certainly if you're giving out cards, that people are going to start using them.
Yeah, the day that we give out the cards, all the vendors have to be signed up and ready to go, because people are going to take that card and immediately go to a vendor.
Well, there should be a list of who the vendors are.
Right.
Right. It could be as simple as getting all this lined up and say, give it to us and say, January 1st, it's in motion, or December 1st, it's in motion.
Right.
As opposed to.
And I thought when FinPro came to us, I thought the idea was that the cards get printed, and it's 1 card or 2 cards per taxpayer, or.
No, they estimated based on 8,500 residents that they thought that 1,000 cards would probably cover it, because people lose cards, some people never use them.
But the cards can be distributed through the municipality.
No. What happens is when I got PPAC Gladstone Bank to be the sponsor of the cards, that they're going to pay for it, it's $1 a card. Let's start with 2,500. Was my suggestion. I said, start with 2,500 cards. How it goes. Then you can always add another 2,500, because the benefit for PPAC Gladstone is they get their name imprinted on the back of the card as being the sponsor of the program. Sits in the window stickers in the vendor's window that it's sponsored by PPAC Gladstone Bank. So there's incentive for them. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get the cards printed up, but I'm not going to have PPAC print the cards up until we know we have a commitment from 15 vendors who are signed up and ready to go, rather than a vendor saying, yeah, I like it, I think it's a good idea, sure, I'll do it, until they actually get signed up and they're committed and ready to go. So once the cards are distributed, now we're not distributing them at Fall Fest, we're just announcing the program. We did put it in the tax flyer letter that came out that proposed the program. And as far as the implementation date, the launch date, we really don't have that yet. It's as soon as we get the cards made up, and then we could pick any date for that.
I think Bernie's almost at the point where you can probably put this down in a program
Right.
format, and maybe at the next meeting,
Yeah.
and go
Get-
ahead and take a look at it, just so in case there's anything that we
Right.
can kind of add to or subtract.
Well,
Right.
at the last meeting, when I handed out with the letter, and then there's a merchant FAQ and a bunch of other stuff, I think that's pretty comprehensive on what the program entails from the merchant, from the vendor standpoint, from the resident standpoint, or whoever is utilizing the card. So I'd ask you to go and look at that packet, and if there's anything that's missing out of that, or if you have any other questions, then I'll see if I can fill in the blanks.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's a marketing tool, which is, like I said, a good one, but by the same token, a document that lives on past the five of us and the next administrator or whomever and say, hey, what is our property tax program? Well, let me pull out the file and here's how it works.
I mean, I could
Something like
put
that.
something together.
I think that's what we're looking for, so we know
And
what it is
we
that,
discuss, and then there'll be
Yeah.
a little bit of discussion as to
Right.
how the nuts and bolts work, and then
Right.
if there's any questions, people can maybe come to the meeting and just ask any questions that they might have.
Well,
Right.
by the next meeting, I hope to have at least 15 solid, if not more, merchants who I can say have signed up for the program. Now, we're not collecting any fees from the merchants until the program actually starts. And that will be the day that somebody gets their card and...
so it's a question like that. So who collects the fees and where do the fees sit? Do they sit in township, in
No,
township, or
the money's
PPAC
all-
Gladstone, or who's the entity that collects the money?
If you the mechanics, what happens is that the discount at the point of service, the point of sale, what happens is there's a discount applied, but it's not taken off at the point of sale. A week later, the merchant's business account is debited the amount of the account, and it goes to FinCredit. They hold it, and then it's applied back at tax time to the municipality. We get the, and then we can put as a credit to the.
And what's the mechanism for choosing FinCredit? What if they go out of business and we need to use a different administrator? Who makes that decision as to who the vendor is for that? And how is that
They're the ones
determined?
they have the proprietary program. They're the ones that are doing it right now in 17 municipalities. I mean,
Right, but
I don't know
anything
if
that
they
the
were-
government does,
if they were to
you have
blow
to
up-
you have to be able to choose amongst vendors, and if FinPro goes out of business or we don't like how they're doing it, in other words, what's the mechanism, like we pick out a,
Steve, I do believe we asked that question when the rep from FinPro came before
FinCredit,
us.
it's FinCredit.
Credit.
FinCredit came before us
Yeah.
Yeah, 3
Years
times,
ago.
at least twice that I remember.
It was a while ago. I remember one of us asked that question, and we might have to go back and see what the answer was, or maybe Bernie can bring the representative back here again. My recollection was that it was some sort of account, and because they are, whether it's through the state, that account.
But I mean, does the
would be-
township sign a contract? Do we have an art, or is it?
They
I
can't
think
take the
township
money and
is
commingle
out
it.
of it. They're just essentially taking some money.
It's a
that the-
dedicated, I believe it's a dedicated account in the name of the township. So they're not commingling the money with other towns. So there's a dedicated account. So I'm sure that, there's no way that somebody absconds with it, or if they go out of business, the money just disappears. I mean,
And
there's safeguards
that
for
was
that.
consistent with what
Yeah.
the representative said,
Yeah.
not only within that account, but there would be an accounting for the individual. So Bernie buys, a couple of reams of paper from someone who's in the program, and they offer a 5% discount. That 5%, I don't want to say discount, but a 5% credit, 5% of the purchase goes debited from the
Merchant.
merchant, goes to that account under,
Well, Finn keeps a percentage of it.
that's between them and the vendor.
So the
And then that money goes towards the taxes.
Each cardholder, each resident or cardholder, they don't even be a resident, they have an account, and they can go online and they can look at their account. It looks at all the credits, all the purchases that they've had, and how much they've accumulated in tax credits to date. And
So
that's
the agreement is with the cardholder and FinCredit, not Township of Bedminster and FinCredit.
Right.
correct. But they have to go and register on the FinCredit website.
Mayor, if I may, I think there would have to be some agreement, because we're going to agree to accept money from a third party on behalf of the taxpayer to go towards that tax payment. So I think
Right.
there would have to be something between the town and FinCredit to say that we're going to accept that money and apply it to this individual's tax credit.
Yeah.
Well, I know what they have in place for, I could easily tell you what, Hillsborough and Bridgewater have in place, and I could have them send you over what kind of agreements they have, if they have any.
Like I said, all I'm looking for is something that's kind of a fully baked program that you can pull off the shelf and say, well, this outlines who's responsible for what, how long the agreement is, is it a contract, is it a 3-year agreement, is it just nuts and bolts. So if Bill got hit by a bus tomorrow, there would be a roadmap so that the next people in line could just make it happen. That's all. And then that's
I'll
something
see if I can come up
that this governing body can vet and look through and go, yeah, that makes
I'll
sense.
see what the other townships have, if they have anything like that.
And like I said, the goal is not, I'm not trying to pour water on it. I just want to make sure we properly vet it and make sure that it's something that the 5 of us are comfortable with.
Okay.
All right. And along those lines, the RAPID program. In fact, before we get too far in the RAPID, Bernie, in your discussions with some of your businesses, any feedback on RAPID?
Steve, I did speak to, in speaking with the chief and on this, I did speak to one of the merchants. There's 2 identified merchants in town who may deal in areas like this, one more than the other. The one that I spoke to, the jewelry store in town, they actually showed me a form where they would already report to the prosecutor's office on any transaction involving jewels or gold or anything of value. And what they do is, of course, they will take possession of the piece, hold it until they get a clearance from the prosecutor's office. They've taken a copy of identification from whoever presented it, as well as the and everything else. But to be honest with you, they said they have not had one of these in years, where anybody walked in there trying to sell a Rolex watch or a piece of jewelry or something like that. In fact, they said they would only accept it from somebody that's an existing client or somebody from the area they knew. They wouldn't deal in somebody off the street coming in and saying, here's a Rolex, how much will you give it to me? Plus, they wouldn't give them the money anyway. They would take it, have them fill out the form, submit it to the prosecutor's office, and the person would have to come back and get...
So they already do a version of this without the photographs and the computer?
I got a copy of the form that they fill, and I showed it to the chief. The difference is this sits on a fax machine or goes in a pile in the prosecutor's office, and it's not very timely, where the new program is all inputted real time right there by the merchant, apparently, so that it can be acted upon much more quickly. Now, the other merchant that I haven't seen them about the program, or this, or the property tax card, but they actually buy the gold, and I've had discussions with Carl about they're a little individual, different situation. We would probably, the recommendation would be that we approve the program and therefore compel them or any other merchant that comes into town that's selling used jewelry or melting down gold or anything like that to comply with the program. Right now we have probably only one merchant that deals anything remotely to that. But they're both reporting on it, right, Chief? Both of them are reporting right now.
Yes.
Using the paper version.
We get them routinely from one of the, other involved, but it's not timely. So the concern is if it's not real time, it's really useless information to us. Because
if they hold this for 3 months and then submit it, you don't know that somebody...
Right, and it's not color photos, and you can't really make out an ID on the actual driver's license that goes on that form before they photocopy.
So the only
But
question...
does it apply to consignment? Does the rapid program even apply to consignment situations?
No, the
Because,
program's just more for, fire or precious metals.
Right, and we can make it whatever we want it to, but, yeah, for somebody having a vintage dress or something, we don't have to do
It
that.
doesn't cover, I don't
Right.
think the idea was to cover antiques, because
Right.
then you'd have antique dealers, you'd have
Yeah.
the Pottersville Antique Fair, you have all these other things. This is really where somebody has a diamond, or they got a watch, and they're looking to, it's a hot item, right?
It's closer to a pawn issue than it is for the consignment, or someone has the Rolex that they're going to bring to the
Right.
jewelry store, and they're going to sell it on consignment. They're not going to get their money
Right,
for weeks or months.
right.
The idea is if they're not willing to come back to collect their money, then it's probably an item that they're not supposed to be selling.
I would suggest that we have that model ordinance and go, and, fine tune it for Bedminster, and also solidify so we don't have like a GameStop moving to town.
Yep.
And they're buying a lot of stolen goods.
Yep.
So regardless of what we currently have today, I think we need to look outside that parameter and make sure 5 years from now that we're covered in case one of those storefronts goes in.
Now, years ago, it was confined to watches and jewelry and collectibles. Who would have ever thought that a video game or something would have cash value to it, right? I mean, so the ordinance has got to evolve with technology or whatever people consider to be valuable, right?
Cell phones, huge.
Okay.
So we have to determine how far and how broad we want to create the ordinance.
Absolutely. I mean, the sample ordinance had different things. For example, scrapyard, which we will probably never have in Bedminster. So you can leave
Right.
it in or you can exclude it, but, I don't really.
All right, let's work towards getting that sample ordinance and massaging it to make it look like what we think we have or may potentially have in town.
Understood.
All right. All right. Brings us to our second bite at the apple for public comment. Any member of the public wishes to be heard, come on up to that podium and be heard. Say your name, your address. Seeing none, we will move on to Township Committee comments. We'll start with Mr. Payne.
Nothing further, Mayor.
Mr. Jacobs?
This Thursday, Judy, John, Carl, again, Fall Fest 5K meeting. Probably be our last meeting before the actual event. So Jake, once again, get you the flyer so the Burnsville News can promote it
I'll email it to
appropriately.
him tomorrow.
All right.
Any age restriction at all?
No,
I was just curious.
no restrictions.
Even someone as young as you can participate.
Yes, you-
How about
I
that?
tried to get my sister might come out. She's a runner in the city, and I was touting Fall Fest, and why don't you come and
Yeah.
have a 5K,
Yep,
and she might, I might have to pull her a little bit more, but
that's all right.
when we were at the meeting last time, the Fall Fest meeting, it was a great idea. Somebody said, just bring a friend, and, you could double the numbers, just bring a friend. So I might bring my sister and make her come.
All right, good. Joe, you can bring a friend too.
For my wife.
There you go.
Any other comments?
I have nothing further to make.
I don't either. We do have an executive session. There may or may not be a resolution coming out of that. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? All in favor?
Aye.
We will see you in the back.
problem, Joe.
And to my watch, it is, oh my God, it is 10:42, and we're out of executive session. We have nothing more this evening. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.